Jonathan, a couple of years ago when I was at Zone Institute, which is basically a district conference for district governor types. I was looking around the room at this group and I said, that's got to be Jonathan Lucas. It's got to be. And I went up and sort of reintroduced myself and have been glad to rekindle the friendship. It was just clear, even 20 years ago, that Jonathan had the stuff. And so many times in Rotary, particularly with our younger folks who are involved, be that Interact or Rotaract or Scholars, we don't keep that connection. The people who we invest in, who we see have such talent and drive, and we don't always do a good job of staying connected. So it just thrilled me that Jonathan has reconnected with Rotary in another part of our zone, and now as a district governor, and I feel certain is not going to check out on June 30. We'll find other ways to keep plugging in your communities and beyond. So you are truly the success story that we look for, Jonathan, and appreciate your continued service. And it's great to be with you all. Jonathan's given me an hour and a half to talk about Rotary. I'm sorry. He said 15 minutes would be more than enough of me. But it's great to be with you and appreciate what you do. And I've made so many friends in your district, and so good to be with you. Pat and Jonathan gave me a little bit of input leading up to this meeting, and I'm really going to focus on a couple things. One being effective club planning as it comes to membership. Now, I know that sounds completely dry, and I'll try for it not to be a snooze fest. We'll talk about that, and then I'm going to pivot a little bit and talk about the times that we're in now, because it obviously has a huge impact on membership and the way we approach Rotary, and I think it will have an impact even after this crisis is over. I think Rotary will be changed forever in the way that we do Rotary. So I'm going to flash up on the screen here, if I can find it. Let's see there. Can you see that now, the club membership growth plan? Yes? Okay, great. So I put this up just so you can kind of have a guide of the things I'm going to talk about. And one of the reasons we talk about an actual plan that we suggest clubs put together is that we have to be intentional about what we're doing with membership. For a long time, Rotary was an organization for, big wigs, if you will. And it's still sometimes when I go to other places in the world, I'll visit a club and I'll think, yeah, I would never be allowed to join this club. When I went to the Rotary Club of London, I had the head of the British rail system on one side. I had the chairman of a pharmaceutical on the other. They inducted the Norwegian ambassador to the UK as a member. And I thought, yeah, they would never have a guy who owns a little 20-employee company in Greensboro, North Carolina, in this club. But so there was a time when Rotary just kind of attracted people naturally, and not too much was required. But for the last 20 or 25 years, we've seen that our membership across the world has really remained constant. And during that time, it has grown in Asia and Southeast Asia, while it has fallen in North America. So it's something that we have to work at it a little bit more. We have to be intentional about what we're doing. So on the screen here, we break up into really 4 areas for key membership. And those are prospect identification, attracting members, onboarding new members, and then retaining members. So when it comes to prospect identification, kind of 3 areas that I think about that we can tackle. One of those is, we're supposed to have club assemblies 4 times a year. I really suggest that you have a who do you know kind of meeting in your clubs. And that is, okay, what professions, what parts of our community are not represented in this club? So that's a bit of a diversification kind of thought, and I know that particularly for Jonathan this year, diversity has been a point of emphasis. But do you have a local pastor? Always a good thing to have for when your person who might give an invocation doesn't show up. It's good to have a prayer on call right there. Do you have, I mean, normally we have bankers and accountants and attorneys and some of those types of professions, but do you have other professions that are not represented, from manufacturing, from government, from education, from some of those areas that are maybe not as well represented? And I think about when we identify those prospects, it's very much like sales in the for-profit world, you know, kind of the 10-3-1 rule, where we have 10 targets, we make a contact, we're likely going to have about 3 prospects out of that, and from those 3 prospects, maybe 1 member. So there is a numbers game to this, and I encourage your clubs and those of you who work with your clubs and lead those clubs to help them make plans, to think about that type of who do you know exercise, and to think specifically about where do we have gaps in our professions or our classifications, because sometimes that can spur your prospects. Another great source, and some of you on this call will be aware of this, some of you will not, is that Rotary International has a pretty robust lead system now. And so periodically your district will get a list of people who've taken the time to go to Rotary International, to express interest, to fill out personal information and say, have someone contact me. When I was the membership chair in my district, we were getting about 100 leads a year. Now, they're not all going to join Rotary, but they're hot leads. I mean, these are people who have put forth a little bit of effort and expressed some interest. And so that's an opportunity for your membership team, your leadership team, to be able to help recruit those people who have expressed interest to the club or the clubs in the area where that person lives and or works. So that's just a little bit about how we can identify prospects. And by the way, this form, I'll just go ahead and mention to you, you'll see, I think you can see my cursor right here where it says rizones33-34.org. If you cut off the rest of that address, we have this form up, and we have a really robust search engine there. If you just search on plan, this will come up, membership plan, that type of thing. There's several ways to get to this form, or I can make it available to you in a Word doc that clubs can work on. So moving from prospect identification to attracting members. I have 3 suggestions for you in terms of attracting members. One is that your club presidents, particularly in what we used to call smaller clubs, but now what are really average size clubs of 30, 35, that's pretty typical for a Rotary club. Your president take the opportunity to sit down eyeball to eyeball and to say, I want you to bring 2 prospects to Rotary. Will you do this for our club? Will you do it for me? Now, if a president short circuits this and just announces from the podium, membership is important to all of us, I need you all to get behind this, that's an appeal to no one specifically. You know, we hear announcements sometimes that just kind of wash over us because we figure, well, the next person will take care of that. But if I'm sitting eyeball to eyeball with Rich Story and I say, Rich, you know, we've been trending down on membership, I need your help. Will you commit to bring 2 prospects this year? It's pretty unlikely to say no. Now, he knows me. He knows I'm kind of a clown. He might say no to me. But to the average club president, they're going to take that as something they've committed to do. The second is, and this is something that we teach all around the zone how to do this, is to conduct a Rotary Information Hour, sometimes called a Discover Rotary Hour. This is nothing more than a structured, typically 45-minute or 1-hour get-together, partially social, maybe 20 minutes of social, and then 20 minutes of a presentation of this is what Rotary is, and this is what my Rotary Club is. This is what Alexandria Rotary is, or this is what um, Fredericksburg or Rappahannock Rotary is. And then time for questions. Now that sounds pretty simple, and really it can be, but I can tell you that for clubs who do this on a regular basis, they convert at least half of the prospects who come to a Rotary Information Hour, they become members. My own club runs about 75%. So even if we only have 4 people show up for one of these, and we do one about every 6 weeks, we're landing 3 of those 4. Again, it sounds simple, and it can be, but I encourage you as you work with your clubs and in your clubs to make that part of what you're doing. We have template PowerPoints at the Zone website that you can use to make a presentation you can personalize to your club. There's even a video of a sample of how to do one of these, just to make it easy. And again, I encourage you to personalize it to your club, and it needs to show this prospect what Rotary is and what your Rotary Club specifically is. But it is a proven, it's the most successful tactic I know of for bringing new folks to Rotary. The other is DAC-DB, and I think most of you are aware of what DAC-DB is, or Jeremy, you may not be, because I think you all use Club Runner, mostly in Australia. But DAC-DB is a competitor. It has an entire drip marketing system in there where basically you enter a person as a prospect instead of a new member, and you can, anytime you're sending out a club newsletter or club announcement, you can include your prospects, and you can just kind of keep in touch with folks who've expressed an interest or you've identified as a prospective member. So that's a good way to make that part of your plan here for attracting members. Now, onboarding new members. This is so often an overlooked but incredibly important part of the membership experience. We always hear about that first day and the first week in a new job, how critical that is to the success of a new employee. The same is true for a Rotarian. So the onboarding, the orientation process is incredibly important. That first off, in an orientation, a new Rotarian knows, here's what I can expect from Rotary. Here's what Rotary expects of me, be that financial or gifts of time or gifts of talent. But after that orientation, the onboarding is really critical. Successful clubs typically will have some type of mentor relationship who may or may not be the sponsor of the new member. Somebody who will oversee that new member and be sure that the person is becoming part of the club, getting integrated into the flow of the club. Pat sent me an onboarding process, a red badge program that Bailey's Crossroads uses. In my own district, I think 40 of our 50 clubs use the red badge process. Show of hands, do any of you all use something like that, a red badge that converts to blue badge? Is that, it's fairly common?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, of course, the red badge is not meant to ostracize or to otherwise demean a new member. Hopefully it is a signal to your existing members, hey, there's a new person in our club. Let's make that person feel welcome. Let's include that person in a project. Some clubs even go to the point of saying, we're going to take all of the new members who joined our club in the last 12 months and ask them to produce a new project for our club, which one, make sure that that group has some kinship. You know, they're not just people who joined Rotary around the same time. They're working on something together. 2, it breathes new blood into a club. 3, it shows that the new club's open to new ideas. And hopefully that group is bringing a community need that may not have been addressed by your club previously. So that new member club project can be a really effective part of your onboarding. But no matter what, it's incredibly important to be sure that they're properly, new members are properly oriented and onboarded. So scanning down to retaining members. This applies to all of us, and it's probably never been more important than right now when we're a little less connected than we have been. Your programs, so important. Having programs that are exciting to your members, are pertinent to your members, that make your member think, I've got to be at Rotary Wednesday at breakfast or Friday at lunch or whenever your club meets, because I know it's going to be a good use of my time. I'm going to learn something about my community. I'm going to be invigorated by an inspiring speaker. I'm going to hear what's going on at the local university athletic department, whatever it may be that's important to your members, which could be very different than what my club wants, but that your members are getting what they want. Again, a simple thing, but for a club to actually intentionally say, this is going to be super important for us. We're going to really put some effort into this. We're going to be sure that we've got top-notch members working on this because it is part of the value proposition for our members. Meaningful service projects. It's really easy to do the same service projects year after year after year, but I encourage, as part of a membership plan, that clubs really evaluate, are we still addressing the highest needs in our communities? Most people do not join Rotary as specifically for service, but many people find that many Rotarians find it's a huge part of their membership and of the value of their membership. So the last thing I would say to you, and obviously I'm covering this very quickly in terms of these 4 areas, being identification of prospects, attraction of members, orientation and onboarding, and then retaining members, is that just hoping that this will work out is not enough. A club plan, hopefully going into 2021, April through June, the club is taking this form or one like it and developing a plan and then committed to working that plan. It shows up in all kinds of ways in the statistics, but more important, it will show up when your club is robust because they're doing these things and they have engaged members. It'll show up that way in the force you can be in your community. Now I want to talk a little bit about what we're all dealing with right now, this current crisis. And I suspect that COVID, the coronavirus, is hitting all of us closer and closer to home. A member of my club has had it. He's now on the backside. He's recovered. I have 2 clients who are in the middle of having it right now. And I lost a good friend 1 week ago to coronavirus, who had been a good friend for 10 years. He was much older. He was in that, one of the at-risk groups. But I believe that it's going to continue to hit closer and closer to all of us, particularly over the next few weeks. And I know in Virginia, you all have been, in terms of the ramp up of this, I think you've been maybe a little bit behind some of the states, and hopefully the peak will be not as bad as some of the states. I've been glad watching that's been good for Virginia. But right now we face a challenge of how do we stay socially connected while we're being socially distant? What you're doing right now, and as soon as Jonathan and Pat sent me a note about this, I said, this is great. I'm thrilled you're doing this. You're keeping people connected. And I hope that your clubs, at least some of your clubs, are meeting virtually like this, because I think that the connectivity of your members is incredibly important. I know that we will lose some members. Oh, good. We will lose some members who have 8 weeks off from Rotary and say, you know what? I can do without this. I drifted away. I'm okay with that. So I think it's incredibly important that we stay in touch with our members and that we infuse energy to them during this time, because all of us are feeling a little disconnected and a little isolated while we're at home. Let's see. I'm going to stop at share. I know of a president who is visiting every member of her club, goes and rings the doorbell, stands 20 feet out, and is touching base with every member of her club to be sure that she's checking on their well-being, that their needs are being met, and that they know their Rotary Club is still there for them and reaching out in a very direct kind of way. I think that's an incredibly good idea. Now, if you're in a club of 150, that may take a little bit longer, but for a lot of our clubs that are 15, 20, 30, 35 members, and let's face it, what else are we doing right now? It's very doable. I think this is a chance for our clubs to have amazing programs from people who are far away who we couldn't normally have. My club meets Monday at lunch. We had a real live Hollywood writer and producer as our speaker on Monday, right from his studio. This guy he's written script. His first script that he wrote was picked up and produced and made into a television show by Steven Spielberg. And from there, he's just gotten bigger and bigger. So he's a producer. He's had 2 shows picked up on TV. The first one starring Halle Berry and produced by Steven Spielberg. Talk about starting at the top. But we could never get him to fly to North Carolina to come talk to us for 20 minutes. So I encourage you to have your clubs take advantage of this time. I know you're going to have Mary Berg from Pennsylvania next week. She's a fantastic speaker, and she's going to talk about something that's really pertinent in terms of mental and emotional well-being during this time. Keep doing that and encourage your clubs that are meeting online to reach out further. We're getting a little taste of what the really effective e-clubs can do, where they get Rotary presidents and trustees and Rotary bigwigs to come in because they can do it from anywhere with a headset in 20 minutes of time. I encourage you to get really, really creative. We frequently have members do member talks at our clubs, and I'm sure you do that as well. But we're going to have members give us home tours. They're going to take us through their homes. Here's where I live, and here's what my life is for this 6 or 8 or 10 weeks. And hey, you can meet Betty the Beagle. Here's my Beagle. And just things to take advantage of the situation we're in, because this has been thrust upon us. We should make the very best we can of it. We need to still be the place that Rotarians go for fun and for their social outlet and for good information and for good ideas. So I encourage you to take advantage of this, because I do believe coming out of this crisis, whatever that looks like, we're going to be changed as an organization, and we're going to be changed as clubs. Now, straight talk, real talk, we're going to lose some members out of this. There's no question that's going to happen. But my hope is we're also going to use some new muscles that we have by learning how to meet online. People who may not have been very comfortable with technology now having the opportunity to do this and to be more comfortable. And we can use that to our advantage. We may be able to use it to be more appealing to younger prospective members who see that, oh, Rotary is not just a bunch of old folks and their parents. We can actually do hip stuff and meet online. So I think it's important that, yes, we acknowledge there are going to be some challenges out of this, but that we also realize that there's some opportunities in terms of these new ways that we have to meet and new facets of Rotary that we can take with us after we don't have to be so socially distant. So I never like to give lectures. I'm very much I like to talk and have conversation. I know for Zoom it's tough to do, but I'm gonna cut it there. And if there are any questions that you have or comments about what I said or related to what I said, I'd love to hear them.
Hey, this is John Loring, Merrifield, Patrick, and Jonathan, if you're listening as well. Do we have this with one of my networks or all of the locally as far as their Zoom login so we can cross-chapter sort of meetings. And that way, just like we would go to another Rotary Club, we can jump in on one. Do we have anything for our district like that that we're producing for those that are running calls like my club is?
Yeah, any club, this is Rich Story, any club that wants to do a meeting has a use of our Club Central Zoom. And we have just recently sent out notices to all the presidents and president-elects and the AGs also instructing how to do it and the fact that it's a free service. And we really are encouraging them to do that. I know my club's doing it very effectively. And there's several other clubs out in this area that are doing it very effectively. And it's great because I'm seeing people from my club that I haven't seen for a while because they didn't come to meetings. Now they are.
Rich, this is Pat. I just add, Ed, to your comment. As we are developing that, we are beginning to index and asking the clubs to advise if they are meeting, and asking them whether they would like to open that to other Rotarians. So I know that's one of the goals that Jonathan has on that.
Right.
Thanks, Pat. Yeah, definitely. I think we need to, it's a great idea. We need to be able to definitely index that, and we're going to focus on that. And I tell you, for my club, you know, my president was dealing with some health issues this year. And so we started using these online meetings to, you know, have her present and at our get-togethers. And so I think Patrick's right. It's become, I think we need to integrate this into, you know, when we get back to quote unquote normal, we need to integrate this technology into our meeting platform.
Yeah.
This is Barry Gordon at Fairfax. Have any one of you had any experience with hybrid clubs?
Hybrid meaning partly online and partly in person?
Yeah, streaming the meeting while it's going on and having a camera behind the podium and having the ability for folks who are remote to come on and ask questions.
Barry, I would just comment, we use that in our business and the office. It's, I think, probably doable for the speaker so that they are listening to the speaker and have the opportunity to raise a question. But for an entire meeting, it all depends upon the individual and the activity level.
Okay.
Yeah, I've certainly seen programs given completely remotely for an in-person club, and I know of clubs who provide a live stream as well as a taped version. I'm not aware of any who are having Q&A coming remotely, but that may be a logical outgrowth.
This is Jim Holcomb. We also have, they may not know, at Zone 33, we also have a district TV show. And Pat Borowski and myself are two of the three hosts.
What does that look like?
Deborah is our leader. Deborah Jackson is our leader.
Right.
And so we interview Rotarians, and it airs on Channel 10. And Dave Borowski gets credit for, they use the term in advertising, bicycling. He's going to take it beyond just one TV channel to many different opportunities.
It's fantastic.
Dave is our PI chair for the district.
Can I ask a question?
Go.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you sound good.
I didn't see anything on the agenda for getting new members and recruiting new members and stuff on diversity and inclusion. And since I'm a member of that committee now, I thought I would ask if there's anything moving on how to include others and be more diverse and inclusive.
Are you asking within your district or Rotary as a whole, or?
Well, let's concentrate on our districts since that's who's on this call. But clubs as a whole, or that you want us to take that on our own as part of that outline of how to attract new members and keep them and that kind of thing? Is there anything?
Of course, I talked about it in my platform when I was doing the club visits. One of the things we were trying to do, we were trying to culminate the district conference where we were going to have diverse organizations come who are representing different populations within our district to come and talk about what they're doing. How do we get involved with that particular demographic? And of course, the district conference is now put on hold. I think that's part of the key, though, is to outreach. If and your example, Nancy, being in Alexandria, who are the major players out there? So I think it's hard to go door to door and say, okay, let's talk to this type of population. But if you know who the organizations are supporting them, then there's a way to get in there and understand what their needs are, what they're looking for, and their volunteer experience, how we can really work together.
Yeah.
I think it's important. Rotary cannot grow if we don't, continually have clubs where you go and there's nobody representing the Asian community or the Latino community or the LGBT community. That's sort of the natural outcrop of our growth opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. And I think getting speakers on board from those alternative communities is a good way to start, a good thing to do, and then invite people from that community to the club to hear them that day. I don't see that happening much in our club, certainly. I think it's a great way to concentrate on that.
I think another area for outreach there is to think about projects in the community that will serve certain segments of the community that are underrepresented. I mean, that can be a very good way to start that conversation.
Yeah, good idea, for sure. Okay, I just thought I'd bring it up since it wasn't, mentioned yet in the recruiting new members and keeping them. I thought, good time to interject diversity and inclusion there.
I will tell you from a zone membership team standpoint, it is a huge focus of ours. I was obviously moving quickly today, but it is a huge, and Jonathan's right. But besides the fact that we can't serve our communities as well as we should until our clubs look like our communities.
Right.
It's the right thing to do as an organization.
Great. And I want to thank Dave too for being our IT guy on all of this. Thank you, Dave. Okay, thanks. Uh-oh.
Started pouring down raining, so I had to come inside. Can't win. Can't win.
It's only going to last 10 minutes, Jonathan.
I know. I think you're right.
Yep. There it is.
Any other questions regarding membership while you have Patrick with us? All right, we're at the 42-minute mark. If you have any further questions on this topic, please reach out to me. I'm sure I can forward any questions on to Patrick. And I think we got the DGE on the line as well. I think now start the time to start planning for running out of the gate. Beginning of next Rotary year, and how do we stay ahead of the ball game and mitigate some of these potential losses in membership in our district. But please let's put Patrick's ideas to work, and let's keep connected to our members.
Are these recordings posted where?
On our YouTube channel.
Oh, okay. Good.
I'll send out a link in a bit for all this.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, folks. Thank you for your time. Good to see everybody from around the world. Jeremy, you have something?
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to introduce Grant. He popped on a little bit late. He had to connect the line all the way from Australia to the US. So he's Grant's one of our team members from Australia that was going to come across. Just wanted to introduce him and so everyone knows his face, although he's missing the beard. So he looks
Jeremy, can I ask, how is this affecting membership in Australia?
I went to a Rotary meeting this morning, well, virtually went to one, and it was a really good turnout. There was about 40 people for a club that normally gets about 20 to 25 that attends their meetings. So they're really seeing a positive outlook, and we're doing a sort of similar system where we're getting speakers from areas that we normally wouldn't have access to. So I think I see this as a positive, to be honest, for Rotary, reaching out and hopefully trying to grab that younger population and keeping them as well.
Grant, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Just on that, if anyone has a Rotary meeting at their club and wants one of the Aussies to pop in and say a couple of words, or wants to invite us along, just reach out to me. I think Dave and Pat know how to get hold of me on Facebook, and if you'd like us to come along, as you can see, we stay up all hours of the night.
Yeah, we'll definitely
Thanks for having us.
maybe put you on the May speaker list. If I'll shoot you an email, we can talk about what your availability
Sure.
is.
No worries.
Doing these midnight meetings, we'll have a lot of question and answers. We'll go to like 2 a.m.
Nothing coffee can't fix.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order? Once, twice, sold.
It was great.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank
Great
you.
meeting.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you all.
Thank you, Rich.
Stay safe, all.
Yes.
Take care, Nancy.
Thank you, dear. Leaving meeting.
Leaving meeting. Bye.
Leaving meeting.
Leaving meeting.
Yeah,
Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rich, as usual, for your help.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I'm gonna cut you guys off. Okay.
All right.